Hello, everybody. Thank you for attending with us this webinar about when and how to archive data into Salesforce. We are going to spend together around 30 minutes. First, we will start by a presentation, to give you a background of the company, and then to give you the basic of what we consider to be important if you are thinking of archiving some of the data of your Salesforce data. So during these first 10 minutes, we will present you a few slides. Then we will switch and we will go to a demo so that you understand better and we can illustrate what we are doing with our platform. And then we will have some time left for the question and answers. We have already received some questions from some of the participants, but feel free to ask questions through the chat window. You should see my screen. So we have to start. It's important that you know exactly who is Odaseva. We started in 2012, 2013, and at the very beginning, during the first 2 years, we have developed a platform with a few big customers, and we have been in kind of silent mode. Then last summer, we have made a fundraising, and we have decided to accelerate and to go to the market in order to share with more customers our platform. We have a very long experience, and most of the team is coming from Salesforce. We have expanded, and we have a broad activity both in the US and in Europe, San Francisco in the US and Paris in Europe. Now, regarding the platform, the key drivers to develop our platform were first a very high level of security. And we are a security company, so everything is about the trust. But the trust is about our ability to show you and to prove that we have a secure platform. And then the second driver, because we started with very large customers, was the ability to handle large data volumes. And at this point, we have started to work with some of the real biggest Salesforce platforms in the world. Some of them are in large data volume, but a few of them are even in extreme data volumes. So it was about the company, and you now have a bit of our history in mind. But more interesting is about our offering and our platform. It was our first product. We have developed the backup. And I'm sure that most of you already know us on the backup because it was really the first product line, and it is one of the most used in the Salesforce ecosystem. And then 18 months ago, we have announced our archiving platform. I will get back to this, of course. Initially, and it is the third one, we branded a data management platform, but we have realized that data management is probably a bit too broad for what we are doing, and we have decided to focus on the ability on enabling you to address the new requirements that have been generated by the new data privacy laws. In Europe, this is named GDPR, General Data Protection and Compliance. But you also have the same in Australia, in Japan, and in other countries. And on this platform, we give you the ability to protect your data. So backup and restore is one of them, but also to detect data breach. A very important matter in the GDPR is the ability to minimize the way you use data. So it's about your data cycle, about the way you pseudonymize, you anonymize. And the last main topic is to enable you to make your data portable, to target it and to export it in a readable format. So these are our three main product lines. We will zoom on the archiving, of course. Let's talk about our credibility, and I can show you many logos, customer logos, but at last, I think that the two metrics that describe us the best is first our number of users. And we protect now more than 1 million Salesforce users all over the world. And I was mentioning the large data volume and our ability to handle large set of data. And I think that there is one very good metric, which is the fact that we handle, this is even more now, by the way, more than 150 billion records every year on our platform. This is huge. There is a question which is coming from what we are doing, and this question is, what is the split between what Salesforce does and what you do, guys? Salesforce has a responsibility on the platform. Salesforce is handling pods, and on these pods you may have thousands of customers, and Salesforce provides security at the infrastructure level, at the network level, at the application level with the single sign-on, with the password policy, with the segregation of duty, etc. You can even subscribe to Salesforce Shield and access to very interesting features. And as a Salesforce customer, by the way, we are a Salesforce Shield user. And when you access our platform, you access Salesforce. Everything has been redesigned in force.com. So some of these features, we are using all these Salesforce Shield features, the event monitoring, the field audit tray, the data platform encryption, etc. But Salesforce, the Salesforce pod is like a building. And inside the building, there is your org. And your org, your organization, is an apartment. And this is where we take place. This is where we are going to work. We are going to provide you backup, archiving, data management, data governance at the org level. Salesforce is in charge of the building. We are in charge of the apartment. So that's the way we manage the split. Or if I say it in other words, Salesforce has a responsibility for the service, and you have a responsibility for the data, and we can help you to manage and to address these responsibilities. So it was a background on what we do, who we are. Now I think it's time to give you and to share with you some of the basics of the archiving within Salesforce. So you have two reasons to archive data in Salesforce. The first one is compliance. And the biggest one, especially for any organization in the world managing data that are related to European citizens or European residents. So in other words, it means that any European organization handling data about European citizens, or any US organization handling data that are related to European citizens, will have to comply with the European regulation, the GDPR. It will come into force in May 2018. But that's the first reason to archive data, because archiving, especially for the GDPR, a big piece of it is your ability to handle your data lifecycle. I will get back to this later. But then the compliance is also about the industry, your industry regulation. So if, for example, if you are working in the insurance, it depends on the country, but in the US, you need to keep aside from the main production system. You need to keep your contract during 5 years. In healthcare or life science, if you collect and if you store any data which is related to a patient, you need to keep it during almost 7 years. So then it means that in your industry, you have some regulation and you have to comply with them. And of course, I don't want to go into too much details, but you understand that it can be important. And then in terms of features, what does it mean? It means that you probably need, and this is also true, there is the compliance, but you also need some features to handle your own rules. And your own rules, they can be decided by the legal, they can be decided by the compliance officer, they can be decided by the business. The first is you have to track the historical changes. Your business process within Salesforce are going to change, and then you may have the need to access historical data with the related metadata, because it doesn't make sense to access data with metadata with the Salesforce model, which is totally different and which is the most updated one, because at some point maybe the data won't mean anything. But then you also need to archive data for audit purposes, because at some point you will have someone who will need to audit your data and your system. And it's also about the confidentiality. And if you have a lot of data into Salesforce, you may have the need to remove some of them, because if there is too much into Salesforce, then the more you have, the more the risk of data breach is high, because some of your users may decide or may want to take some of the data with us, for example, when they leave the company. So it was about the compliance, but then there is another topic which might be really important. It's about the performance and the cost optimization. So archiving data is important because it has two impacts. The first one is the ability to reduce the storage cost, and it can cost a lot. The other one is the maintenance cost, because when you want to make changes in your Salesforce to maintain your Salesforce model, then the more you have, the more complex and the more time you are going to take to change it, to maintain it, to adapt it. But it's also about increasing performance. When you have a lot of data into Salesforce, it will have impact. And Salesforce has a really good level of service, but in any way, the more data you have, the more the search, the reporting, the queries, the roll-up summary, the calculation would be impacted by all these treatment, all these calculation processes, these transformation processes. And then the consequence, and this is really intuitive, when you archive infrequently some of your records, there is a net impact on the app, the Salesforce app performance. Now, a few aspects that are about the data security, and we are going to. I want to mention what we are doing because that's a way to address them. First, the encryption. This is about the data, and when you talk about the data, the first question is about the encryption, and we propose different levels of encryption: network, server, data level. There is also the ability to manage the encryption key, because this is one thing to give our customer the ability to encrypt the data, to secure the data, but they also need to manage their own encryption keys. Then, with all the new data regulations that are coming from Australia, that are coming from EU, European Union, that are coming from North America, then there is a question of the data residency, and we propose our platform is based both on Force.com and on AWS, and we propose, we rely on all the AWS infrastructure, which means that we can propose any data residency the world. When it's about the archiving, this is also about the retention. We need to keep the data for a few months, up to an unlimited time, and we have a few customers that need to keep the data during a time which is not defined. So they keep it, we apply an unlimited retention. And then you have, of course, the real-time audit logs so that you understand exactly what we are doing. We are not very far from the end of this slide, and here comes the way we manage the data life cycle. This is an important aspect about the PII, the personal identifiable information, so everything which is related to the personal data, and you are going to need to cope with that. But you also need to deal to address all of the questions that are raising about the fact that you have too many cases, too many opportunities into your system. So we think that one way of seeing the data life cycle is about the data tiering. The tier one is Salesforce. This is the hot system. Everything is readable, editable, etc. And then there is a tier two. The tier two, this is the warm system. The data is only in a read-only mode. You can archive, and you have asynchronous analytics, which means that we can give metrics that are related to the data that we have archived. And then there is a tier 3, which is the cool data, which is not accessible by end users, only by admin users. And the data is also unactivable and asynchronous. And then there is a tier 4, which is the physical deletion. We have two products to address the tier 2 and the tier 3. The first, the tier 1 is Salesforce. The tier 2 is Odaseva Live Archiving. The tier 3 is Odaseva Code Archiving. And of course, the physical deletion can be about Salesforce or can be Odaseva. So now I would like to give the ball to my dear colleague, Harold, who is going to make a demo. Harold, I give you the ball.
Sure. Can you hear me? I think that now you can hear me. All right, I apologize for that. So thank you, Thomas. Now let's illustrate a little bit how Odaseva is going to address Salesforce archiving for the tier 2 data strategy. So for reminder, Odaseva Live Archiving is going to ensure that archived data remains warm. In other words, that it remains accessible for end users in read-only mode. Even though in this scenario, data is typically unarchivable, we're going to demonstrate at the end of this demo that we're able to unarchive data from a technical standpoint, okay? So let's assume that my name is Thomas, like Thomas, but who was just speaking, because my real name is Harold. Thomas is a salesperson that's working at Soma Electronics. And you can see Soma Electronics here on the left-hand side of the screen. So this is the Salesforce environment, and within this account, United Oil and Gas Singapore, Thomas realizes that there is one opportunity that's been there hanging for quite some time, and he decides that this opportunity needs to be archived, okay? So this is the opportunity. It's oil distribution channels maintenance. So what he's going to do is that he's going just to check on this box that's called to be archived, okay? Like I'm just doing, and he's going to save this record, okay? So once this is done, this opportunity is going to be archived, okay? So just to be sure that we're talking the same language here, this is a process that we're just doing right now on this very record for the purpose of this demo. Usually in the frame of a real project, we have to go through the process of deciding what is the criteria that needs to be applied to perform this, because of course when you have important volume of data that you want to archive, you're not going one record, one by one, checking boxes, of course. So, but for this demo, this is going to be enough, okay? So right now, Thomas flagged this account. So this account is going to be archived at one point. So now I'm switching characters, and on the right-hand side of the screen, I have Odaseva, all right? And on Odaseva, I'm logged in as Constance Smith, all right? So in Odaseva, my company has implemented Odaseva Live Archiving, all right? And so we have a series of, we have a set of demos of macros that you can see. And these macros are going to be the ones that will be grabbing that information from the Salesforce instance towards Odaseva. So we're going to be interested into one particular macro that we have is this one here, archive opportunity from prod. So let's go ahead and see what's inside that one, okay? And actually, I'm going to execute this macro right now, okay? So what this is going to be doing in the background is that it's going to extract the opportunities that have been flagged along with the related data. So as you can see on the right, on the left side of the screen, you have one opportunity with quotes, with products, all right, and other information there. Then the macro is also going to take that information and it's going to move it to an archiving database in the Odaseva cloud. And finally, the macro is going to mass delete all those records, physically speaking, from that Salesforce instance, okay? So let me just double check this to ensure that this has been completed. All right, so now it is completed. And if I refresh, I'm gonna go to United Oil and Gas again, and I'm going to refresh that screen. Okay, it's coming. All right, and if I try to see that opportunity again, I can see that that opportunity as it was doesn't exist here anymore. But don't think it's gone. It's not gone. It's still there. Oh, sorry, I clicked on the wrong account. It's still there, accessible, in read mode. So I just have to go to the archive data tab here. And this is like a window to Odaseva, okay? And so here you can see that opportunity that we previously flagged for archiving, it's there. You can see oil distribution channels maintenance, and look at this. If you click on it, you're going to be moving to Odaseva Virtualize. And what is this? This is actually a tool that allows our customers to navigate through the archive data. So it emulates the look and feel of Salesforce. It's not Salesforce, of course. You can see that it's not Salesforce. It's a little bit less fancy, but it's still nice. And you can see all the information that you previously had on the opportunity, that it's here. You know, the information that was there, it doesn't have the same look and feel as Lightning. It remained on Classic. We're working on that. It will come at one point in time. But the important thing here is that the information that was related to that opportunity is still there. It's associated to that. It's associated to the opportunity, like the quote, and you can also see the products and so on. Okay, so you keep the track of it, and it's still accessible for users in read mode. You can even switch back to Salesforce by clicking on that link, and you're going to be moving to the United Oil and Gas account. Okay, so as I mentioned at the beginning, we are not this is not usually how it happens, but we also have the ability to unarchive this, to take it from the archiving database and move it back to Salesforce. So let me just make this a little bit bigger so you can see it here. All right. So I could click on this button here that says unarchive. I click on it, and you saw that the opportunity disappeared. It actually didn't disappear. It just moved to a transitional zone of the Odaseva database. So if I would like to unarchive that opportunity, I would just have to go to my macro view, okay? And I have a specific macro that is going to unarchive it. So I just have to run that macro, and you're going to see that the opportunity is going to come back to Salesforce, okay? So we just have to let it work. Basically, in a nutshell, what it's going to do is that it's going to extract the opportunity and the related data from the archiving database. It's going to restore that information back to Salesforce, and then it's going to delete the information from the archiving database in Odaseva. Okay, so it's basically like, you know, you take it from one place and put it in the other side. Okay, so I just need to go and see when my opportunity is going to come back, and you can see, wow, kaput, look, our oil distribution channel is now back. I just click on it, and it came back with the quote, with the product, and so, and I can even go and double check, and you can see on the archive side, you know, on the archive data lists, that my opportunity is no longer there either. So basically, we complete the cycle, okay? So this is the first example. This is our Odaseva live archiving. And then we have the other approach, the one that it's related to the tier 3 data tiering strategy that Thomas was mentioning a while ago. So with this strategy, we ensure that data gets archived in the Odaseva cloud, but it will not be accessible to end users. So only system admins can access the archive data in this case. So let's take an example. Here we have one account. And this account, we're going to take the good buyer. Okay, in this company, in this account, we have one case here. All right, in this case, we determine for a reason that it needs to be archived also because it's either too old or, you know, for whatever reason, same logic, right? It depends on really the criteria. It's something that you have to work through and decide. But technically speaking, you could just simply, in this case, check that box and save it. Okay, so the record, it's now flagged for archiving. So the case and the case comments and the, you know, the activity history. So on the right-hand side, I have my macro history, and I can just look for the archive macros, and I have another macro that it's called case called archive. It's just a matter of clicking on it. Okay, and I can execute it right now. And what this is going to do is that it's going to extract the information from Salesforce, and it's going to put it on the Odaseva cloud. And at the end of it, once that operation is completed, you will see that the information is going to be hard deleted from Salesforce. So I'm just going to keep track of my case number here. The case number is 0001180. Okay. So while this is happening on the background, I go back to have the account view. Okay. And I go back to related. Okay, I just need to refresh the screen because sometimes you have the temporary files of the internet that keep displaying information that is actually no longer there. And there you can see the information is gone from here. You don't have any cases. If by any chance I would like to check out that information which has been archived, the system admin who has access to Odaseva can access that information from within Odaseva. So it's just a matter of spotting the right job, which in Odaseva contains the data that is intended for archiving. So you can see this is the operation, this is the backup. You have a button here that allows you to download that information, okay? And this information is going to be in a zip file, okay? In normal time, in real time, I would be prompted to enter the encryption key, right? Because we have encryption keys in the system. For this demo instance, there is no need to enter any key because it's been set up that way with that specific, exception to facilitate the demonstrations. And so here you can see you have basically the case. Okay, and that's it. And you have other information too, but basically everything which you wanted to archive is there. So I send the ball to Thomas now.
Great, Harold. It was a very good demo, and thank you for that. I really like your demos. And then we had a few questions through the chat window during the presentation. And there is one which is really interesting, probably one of the most interesting, because that's about how you manage the archive, how you manage your project. And the question is, what are your biggest challenges when you archive data? Can you give us an answer?
Sure. From experience, defining the criteria that you're going to apply to archive and which objects will be in the scope is probably the first challenge that you will face. There's legal constraints or specific regulations in your industry that may sometimes help you making this decision. That's for sure one of the biggest challenges. And then you're going to have also to overcome technical challenges, such as deciding what API you're going to be using to extract the data. Remember, you are in the cloud, so you rely on the APIs. Other examples is going to be like assessing the impact of the archiving operation to your interfaces landscapes. Is it going to, are your interfaces going to stand the operations that you're going to be doing on large data amounts? It really depends.
Oh, great, thanks. And we have one question from Colin, which is about what data platform are we using as a cloud database. So I can take that one if you want, because actually our platform is built on 2 layers. On the front end, which is force.com, so we are Salesforce customer. This is what I was saying during the presentation. And the back end is based on AWS, on Amazon Web Services. So this is where we store the data. I hope that will help. Then we have another question, which is how long can we keep the data?
Well, the retention may be conditioned by legislation. Basically, it really depends on the cases. You have to be aware that Odaseva retention is customizable, and it can go from 1 week to unlimited. Then how long do you keep the data? It really depends on your industry. It really depends on your use cases. Thomas, are you still there? No, you went to sleep.
No, no, sorry. No, I was reading the question and trying to summarize them. And there is a set of questions, which is what happens in Salesforce when the data get archived, because that's important to understand exactly what is going on and how do we mention in Salesforce that the data has been archived.
Sure. Well, great question. First, you have the data in Salesforce that is going to be effectively archived. Hence, it will no longer be in Salesforce. That data is physically in Odaseva. And then you have the data that remains in Salesforce that was referenced in the archive data. So for that data, you could create a link in Salesforce to access the archive data in Odaseva. In this case, you would be using Odaseva Virtualize to visualize and navigate through the archive data, pretty much like what I did in the first demo.
Thanks, Harold. We got another one, which is how does it work with custom field and custom object? And I can easily answer. The answer is basically yes, of course. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense for us to be in the Salesforce ecosystem. No customer works only with the standard Salesforce object. So yeah, the answer is definitely yes. We are running out of time, so there are a few other questions. I'm not sure that we will be able to address most of them. There is, I want to keep the last one, which is an important one if you want to make your decision about an archiving project. And I try to rephrase it, but the question is, when is it useful to start an archiving project? Can you give shed light on this, Harold?
Yes, for the sake of our business, I would say ASAP, but that would have been nice. No, basically, being serious. Specific industry regulation may constrain certain companies to comply with archiving obligations. So when Salesforce performance starts diminishing due to significant data volumes, you may notice response times progressively become longer, or that related lists take forever to be displayed, or reports fail to execute. That may be a good time to consider archiving. Or well, in certain cases, we have seen some cases like that, where we have Salesforce storage becoming a financial critical issue for certain organizations. So they want to free up some space. That can also be a driver to make that decision. It really comes down to the specific context and of every company and the industry they are in.
All right, thanks a lot, Harold. That was really helpful. So we are reaching the end of this webinar. We have recorded it, and we will send you the video so that you can share it with your team. We have not addressed all the questions, but we will answer you directly by email, one-to-one answers. So that's it. I hope that it was useful and that you took pleasure of sharing that with us. Thank you for attending this webinar, and we really hope to be in contact with you soon. Many thanks. Goodbye.